Well, hello. It's good to be back. I've been away for a few weeks. Had a little under the weather, had some issues, but all is well now. And I'm back with my buddies, Steve Mathis, my producer, and my sidekick and my right hand and my left nut, whatever you want to call him, Kevin Crowley. How you doing, buddies? You guys doing good?
Hello. We're good.
Hello. Yeah, I've been away for a few weeks, and people have been wondering where I've been, and I've been trying to seek out some answers to those questions. You know, have I been pissed off enough to where I didn't want to do the podcast? Have I been angry enough? Was I just too sick to really, dig deep down to see if I had the energy to really want to get into the crap that we've been thrown into in the last couple of weeks, more so than a couple of weeks, but primarily everybody's talking about it this week. And, with the announcement of Jewel, probably being sold to Altria, or at least Altria becoming a major supporter of Jewel and taking over some of their stocks like they did with the Vail Vapor. Of course, we got the Imperial Tobacco regime taking over now with My Blue, which is also very, very notorious to the vaping industry with regard to my personal desires. Kevin, you know about that. Steve, you know about it. The Von Earl people sold to Imperial, and it became My Blue. So I have an attachment to just about everything that's going on. For the last year and a half, close to a year and a half, Jewel and I have been communicating on a regular basis. Kevin, I think you know this, but Steve, you may not. After Von Earl threw me under the bus and they sold to Imperial, Jewel called me and wanted to know if it was definitely a done deal where I was no longer going to represent Von Earl. And I said, yeah, because I'm not going to work for Big Tobacco anymore. And of course, I was told that Jewel will never sell to Big Tobacco. And of course, I laughed that one off because I knew damn well it was in the works. People think because I'm old, I'm stupid. Kevin, I'm not stupid. Steve, no, I'm not stupid.
You're just old.
I'm just old. Okay. Right. And being old gives me some wisdom to where I can sit back and I see and hear things a lot of people don't. Maybe it's just because I listen better than a lot of people. I'm not as distracted with young kids, raising them in school. My kids are all grown. Of course, I got the grandkids, but I have a lot more focus now on what my life could have been, what it should have been, and what it may be. So here I am now doing my podcast with you guys, my favorite people. We're getting ready to start our next project, which will be our mini documentaries, which will be done over the next 3 to 4 months, which will go global. We have some great sponsorships for it. We got the writing being done now. I've got people who are going to be giving me the ideas that they may want to recommend that my documentary, my videos, my mini documentaries should be about. I know what they're going to be about. You guys know what they're going to be about, and we will share over the next 4 to 6 weeks what they're going to be. We will not be owned by anybody. We're not going to be told what to do. We're not going to be corralled. We're not going to be stymied. This is going to be my story based on what I've seen and heard for 34 years. And listeners, I have 2 great guys that are helping me, and I have one over in Australia that's doing it as well, Paul Blameyer. Yep. But Kevin Crowley and Steve Mathis, you are on the team, along with Tony Adamanelli, who's going to be doing some writing for us. But the project is a go. I'll know more about the details next week, and we'll fill you in, folks, as we get closer to doing the production of it. But right now, I think we need to catch up with what's happening, Kevin. What's going on this week with you, and last week and the week before that I may have missed since I was under the weather a little bit?
Well, more than I can put in a mouthful for this show. John Stossel, who I recommended to contact you quite a while back, talked to Michelle Minton of Competitive Enterprise Institute and did a video on his own through, I think it's through Reason, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but
yeah, I saw it. Yeah, I saw it.
Really, really good. Pretty unbiased for him. He's usually pretty straight and forward with it. The Jewel thing itself, Mark 10 is an inferior product, so they're buying out Jewel, as you suggested and said quite some time ago, and Demetrius did as well.
Well, Well, you know what that'll give them, right, Kevin? That'll give them 92% market share of all e-cigarettes.
Right. Yeah. They just bought their competitor out. That's all they did. That was pretty easy.
That's all they did. They were at 70%, 72%, and now 19 or 20% was, big tobacco, and now they'll have 91, 92%. But the John Stossel thing was it pretty unbiased, like you said? And
yes.
It's pretty fair.
Yeah, I thought it was actually really fair, and Michelle did a really good job of explaining things as well.
But the question I always that begs to be answered is: did anybody listen to it? Did anybody watch it? Did it get any legs? Did it grow any?
I hope so.
I mean, this is what's really frustrating about this whole industry, guys. Okay, the industry that I've loved for the last 8 years, and I've been a part of since really 2010 and 11. And watching it grow some legs, and then falling and getting back up and stumbling, and we're very immature, and we were still very immature.
Yeah.
I knew very quickly, Kevin, that when you have stories coming in from the mainstream media, like John Stossel, who I like a lot. I like John. No one's ever called me for interviews on these things, and that's fine. I mean, I had my time in the sun when I quit smoking in 1988, and I became the golden boy for all the media outlets because no one had ever done it. We didn't have social media. We didn't have Google. We didn't have, YouTube. We didn't have anything like that. So everything we did was mainstream oriented, which
phone
was
calls.
Nice. Huh?
Lots of phone calls.
Lots of phone calls. Yeah, but it was fair, because there was an interest in getting to the truth because we didn't have the kind of second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour play that we have in real time of all the fake news, all the bullshit, all the media misrepresentation, all the underplaying of the benefits of anything. I don't care if it's vaping, anything, like whether it's marijuana or whether it's CBD or whether it's, we all know that the downside of opiates. We all know that, yes, some people need pain medicine, but it just became a out of control train wreck. And now the same thing is happening with a product that we all know to be beneficial, but it got away from us, and we imploded on our own quite a bit, I have to say, and I don't mind saying it out loud.
Yep.
We didn't need Mitch Zeller, and we didn't need Scott Gottlieb, and we didn't need Matt Myers and Cliff Douglas and Erica Swart. We didn't need these people to screw it all up for us. We did a lot of it ourselves, and then we played defense the entire run of the last 7 years. We never played any offense. We tried, but unfortunately we didn't have the right media. Money's available because you have to now pay for press releases. You have to pay for the media to tell your story. You have to pay to get something boosted on social media. So I'm just very disappointed in the fact that, what I knew to be true and what I talked to you about 3 years ago when we first met, Kevin, the joy that I had in doing a billion lives, and the thrill that I had that it was going to maybe possibly reach, several million people, meaning in the United States, several million vapors who would get behind it and say, yeah, man, this is really good. It's changed my life. But unfortunately, it went down the other track, and that was to make it a very immature industry with 19, 20, 21-year-old kids becoming very wealthy because they were making premium liquids in their bathroom. Yeah. So it got away from us, and shame on us. And I think the implosion that we're having right now of our industry, it's self-inflicted, and if bullshit was concrete, we'd be a freaking highway. I mean, that's the bottom line. And you report on it every week. I mean,
speaking of bullshit.
Yeah.
Speaking of bullshit, Public Health Law Center put out a tweet about the master settlement agreement, your pal and mine, that the billions of dollars for states and territories restricting sales and marketing of cigarettes for the kids and all that shit. And I tweeted above them, consumers have paid billions. Big Tobacco was the collector of the ransom. So 20 years, ain't done shit.
Nope. And then you got the 20-year anniversary, like we were talking about. And, I've just seen their failure in tobacco control, the failure in the master settlement agreement. Right now, you got 2 or 3 states that are really behind the 8 ball with bonds that they can't pay back. Yeah. California, New York, New Jersey was another one. They just can't pay these bonds back. So the only answer they have to balance the budget is raise taxes. And then since they failed in raising taxes because there's fewer number of adult smokers, of combustible tobacco. It's still around 20%, as we all know, according to the Sinar Amendment. But now we got 10 million vapors who are, and we probably have more than that now. I think we probably maybe have 11 or 12 million vapors in the United States. I think we have, probably 100 million worldwide, maybe 90 million. I'm not sure what the numbers are, but I'll tell you what, there sure are enough conventions, expos, and world-class, gatherings that, people are going from somewhere to see these things. So who knows? And I don't think it matters anymore if it's 10 people or 10 billion people. The people who were able to successfully find a way to transition off of combustible tobacco, good for them. The targets are still on them. And if we have any mantra whatsoever, it's remove the bullseye from the backs of smokers and vapors. And we're not going to do it because even today, I mean, you see, everything you read today, I have to double check with Snopes. I have to make sure it's true, because if I certainly put something on social media like you do, Kevin, if you put something on social media, you have to check, double check, and recheck, to make sure. Because sure as hell, somebody's going to call you on it, and you can say it's not. The sky is blue, and they're going to say, no, it's really more of a grayish brown. So everybody's got something to say, Kevin.
Experiencing that today, literally today, on the numbers, the release numbers that your pal Gottlieb let out about the epidemic. Wall Street Journal put out a 6.3 number. You couldn't see the number unless you hovered over it. Most people are on phones. I'm on a computer. So I put my mouse over that, and it showed 6.3. And I thought, well, they haven't released that information yet. How the hell did she get that? So I tweeted. She didn't answer me. And then the FDA did the same thing in a different way on their tweet, that they put 27.1% overall tobacco.
Right.
They don't, so it's 20.8% on the Wall Street Journal report and 6.3 for cigarettes or other tobacco. Let me say other tobacco. So Clive actually said this is kind of misleading, which it is on the first part, but on the second part with the FDA, these are numbers they haven't released to the public. But how did the Wall Street Journal get that?
Yeah, well, this is something I wanted to talk to you guys tonight about. Steve, you're pretty newbie at this. I mean, you're learning as we talk about this. You get interested in it based on, the kind of excitement it draws. This does not draw a lot of excitement. It draws a lot of attention, but it doesn't draw a lot of excitement because all it means is it's going to be an uphill battle no matter what we do. And the thing is that I don't care about statistics anymore. I don't care. I don't read them. When you have the kind of numbers we've had to look at over the last 30 years, religiously every year, 430-some thousand people die every year from smoking. And of course, it goes on more than AIDS, crack and heroin, global warming, suicides, car crashes, plane crashes. Nobody cares. And that's what we keep going back to. We keep going back to the same thing, that nobody really cares. Nobody's really going to get upset about it. I mean, we're upset about every little thing that happens because we are such a screwed up society. Today we hear that there was a bag, an e-cigarette, exploded in a baggage area at an airport, and it's all over the news and people are talking about it. Oh my God. And so I just went into my Google and I just said, this is true. And yes, it was true. And then I looked next to it and it said that there was 27 lithium ion batteries that seemed to explode in other baggage areas from laptops, from e-reading devices, smartwatches, from
phones, everything.
From phone, yeah. So 27 different, but you never hear about that. So we have to, tongue in cheek, we have to take it with a grain of salt. That obviously, since vaping is new, since vaping is the target as a scapegoat for the anti-tobacco movement that gets lots of play when campaign for tobacco-free kids and Matt Myers and Cliff Douglas and Mike Cummings and Dave Sweener, or not Dave Sweener, but the other guy. All these people can go in with a press release, pay $1,000 to get it run in AP and UPI, and that's what you hear about for the next 4 or 5 days, and nobody really cares. So, I mean, everybody knew that Jewel was going to sell, and I did, you did. I mean, at some point, that's what was speculated, and we certainly talked about it enough. But now everybody seems surprised and shocked that, oh my God, how could they do this to the vaping industry after all we've done we didn't do damn shit for them. You know, we didn't do it. Yeah, and I don't think they ever targeted, marketed kids. I think they played the system well in a capitalistic kind of world that we live in. They let Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids and Cliff Douglas, American Lung, do all, or American Cancer. Is he cancer or lung? I keep forgetting what Cliff Douglas is doing. He's cancer now.
I'll be nice. He's cancer. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all these guys, have been doing this, and they've been, sucking on the teat of, this fiscal pig, for the last 30 years, and they're doing quite well, in these organizations. And they're not stupid people, but they have a hidden agenda that everybody should know about, but they don't because of our friends. Huh?
They need more smokers than cigarette companies do.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I'm trying to get to. Yeah. I don't care. I mean, I read all your stuff, and I read all of Constantino's and stuff, and I see all of Clive's stuff and Carl Phillips. I read it all. But it really, at the end of the day, it doesn't make any difference to me whatsoever, because they're getting away with it. Yeah. They are walking away, laughing all the way to the bank. I have no problem with Kevin Burns and James and Mark Bowen and Gar. I have no problem with them, selling if they want to sell for $28 billion. So they built the product. Yeah. They put the money into it. They invested it. But just don't lie about it. Just don't bullshit us. Don't bullshit the people. It's like trying to convince me that Maxine Waters out in California has our best interest at heart. I mean, it ain't going to happen. Nope. I don't care how much people hate Trump. I don't care how much people love Nancy Pelosi or love the Democrat. I don't really care. I don't get into those fights anymore. That is not my pissing contest. My pissing contest is that these Democrats, and I've named them over and over and over and over again, they know exactly what they're doing, especially that new senator, or that senator out in California. You hear about him, Kevin?
No.
Steve?
No.
Six new counties, or 6 letters have been sent by 6 different senators and legislators in California to ban the flavors statewide. Okay, one of them was Senator Hill, and he used to be such an ally up until about 6 months ago. Remember the Greg Connelly and Mark Leno fiasco a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And Greg went out there and did a hell of a job trying to get, Mark Leno to understand what was going on, and tried to educate him, and he played the game. And he had some of these really good allies, and I guess Senator Hill was one of them, a really nice guy. And all of a sudden he turned. And, if you connect the dots and follow the money, you'll know why. And so Greg Connolly's now got his little bosom in the ringer, because he had a lot of play with these people in California. And now he's seeing that these once heavy hitters for vaping, have just totally gone on jump ship, and they're jumping ship because of a reason. There's a specific reason why these guys, these ladies, these politicians are jumping ship, except for the usual suspects who've always been assholes, the ones who've always been dicks, the ones who've always been, very not nice people. Okay. So, they happen to have been a thorn in my side for the last 10 years since I've been doing this. So it's not just because of the Kavanaugh and the Supreme Court bullshit that, we had to face every day for 3 weeks or a month. So I'm just telling you guys that when I do these programs anymore, it's not going to be based on, let's look at the data. That's your job, Kevin. You're the one that has to keep me out of jail, and if I say something wrong, you certainly got to call me on it. But right now, when you stop and look at the stuff that you have to read every day, and then you have to pick and choose what's more important than, saving lives. Then we have to listen to Stanton Glantz and Eunice Neely, and now we got this new lady, Juliet Jackson, who's now the second one to accuse Stanton Glantz of, checking out her breasts. So he glares at her breasts.
I think he was looking at Greg's up in California a while back.
Oh, okay. Well, it could have been, but this is what's making the headlines. And every day, 1,200 people die every day, and nobody gives a rat's ass. And it's just so frustrating. And a lot of people say, "Well, don't give up, David. Don't give up. Don't become a negative Nelly." Well, how can you not be a negative Nelly when you've got all of this wonderful data that you guys collected and read and reviewed and researched and checked and double checked and went over and up one side and down the other? And then this research is just totally ignored, by our country, who's supposed to be the greatest country in the world. My ass. If they're going to continue to allow 1,200 people, die every day. Yeah. And then there's a saving grace out there. There's a there's a ladder to get you over that addiction hump, and then they just try to impede. I don't know where to go with my anger anymore. So I think the podcast that you and I do, Kevin and Steve, we need to get a little bit more aggressive. I know I have to be, because I won't do it anymore if I can't tell the truth. But I'm not going to do it, and it's going to throw you guys under the bus either. So I have to tell you that, when we see things that you see in the news that I can check with Snopes and see that it's fake news, we're just going to have to really come after these people. Like, I'm sick and tired of saying, well, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? Like the man on the street interviews. Don't you hate that?
Yeah.
They do these interviews on TV, and then they pick some Joe Schmo who doesn't know what the hell we're talking about. It's just like asking them, why do you hate Trump? I don't know, because somebody told me to. Why do you hate the Democrats? Why do you hate the left? Because they're liberals. Because somebody said they were. Yep. I'm tired of that. We've got these politicians. And again, I'm really sick and tired of these politicians saying, well, we need more data. We need more research.
No, we don't.
No, what you need to do is learn how to freaking read, because this stuff is already there. And everybody in this industry, Kevin, I can't stand it. They say, well, we have to educate these lawmakers. No, it's not our job to educate them. Our job is to give them information. They educate themselves based on the facts that are presented to them in such a scientific and unbiased way to where they can't even be contradicted anymore. Nope. I mean, you can't even get these people who said at one point that vaping was not safe as smoking, but now they have said it. Now they're doubling down.
They're backing up.
And they're saying, well, that's not really what we meant. Did you hear about that?
Yep.
I think it was Cliff Douglas that said it. Well, when the American Cancer Society said that they would accept vaping as an alternative if nothing else was working. And now he's doubling down saying, well, no, that's not what they meant. Well, that's what you said. You probably put it into a paid press release because you were looking for some brownie points from somebody for some reason at that particular time. So I'm just saying that I'm pretty much over the nonsense. I'm over the nonsense with this industry too, Kevin. And you might want to chastise me for saying negative things about the industry I love so much, but I can't not say it anymore. So hopefully you'll understand where I'm coming from tonight, and that is I'm angry. And you work so hard every day. I know that you're at your computer, you're plugging in numbers, you're typing, you're putting together a vaping news piece, and you're trying to get information out there with your wonderful blogs. And I just want people to read them, and I want people of importance to see that people like you and people like me and people like Steve who have talents, may not be the talents that they like, but they are certainly talents enough to where there's a lot of people out there who had the opportunity to listen, that might make a difference. I had a woman call me today. It happens to be a friend of my son-in-law's, and she's got to quit smoking. She's 62 years old. She's crying. She's got to quit. And again, it's the same old typical, my grandkids aren't allowed to come over and visit. And I tried so many ways. And I tried to tell her about vaping. And she said, well, I tried those little things from Blue. And I tried something from, I guess it was a Mark 10. I said, well, no, you need to be educated. You need to sit down with people who can really get you the right apparatus with the right nicotine strength, with the right draw, with the right thing. So, but it's just not a matter of having some of these punks that we have in our industry. Did you see that one, that vaping god that was on Laura Ingram's show? Did you hear about that?
I heard about it and I ignored it because it was just pissing me off.
I mean, some punk, he goes on his show and he's blowing big clouds with Laura Ingram. Steve, did you see it?
I did not.
I saw a real quick clip is all I saw.
I wouldn't even say it. That's why I don't bother. I'm only bringing it up because that's what I'm talking about. And my point of contention right now is I'm sick of this industry that's allowing these things to continuously happen. And then you got Sherwin Mina, and you got Tristan, and you got Matthew Salter. All they care about is making this industry reasonably regulated and fair and looked up to, and then they get chastised by people who are saying that they're just the legions trying to police the vaping industry. Well, somebody has to, for God's sakes,
Well, look what happens. They're bitching.
Look what happens.
They're bitching about child marketing appearance.
And they do.
Appearance of it, and they were doing it. And I remember that vaguely. I just started my blog, and I was like, wow, okay. So Meg and I, she was in UK at the time, did a blog about that specifically. Fergus Mason did a blog about it specifically.
Right.
And guess what? Guess what Gottlieb said? Stop marketing to kids, whether they are or not. It looks like they are. Demetrius actually said the words, "I cannot defend this." So Sherwin and the others and the Legion and I wasn't involved in it, but wow, they were spot on, just like you've been. It's the same thing to me.
Well, and nobody likes to be right. I mean, I don't like to be right all the time, and I certainly am not. I mean, I laugh about it once in a while, but I know what I'm talking about, and I knew what Jewel was going to happen. I know what happens with Blue. Once I found out that Von Earl, who had all this money from the Swarovski crystal, who came up with this Von Earl device before they sold it in June of 2017 to Imperial or Phantom, they had the money to do it. I mean, they didn't have a crappy piece of equipment. They spent a lot of money putting together the Von Earl device, the pod system that was going to have a good battery life. And these were quality people. I'm not talking about the schmucks in this industry, these 20, and I don't want to pick on the 20 because there's some really nice kids out there who are vaping and they're really working hard, but I think they just don't get it because they don't have the wisdom to get it. They don't have the experience and the maturity to understand, why somebody like me who shoots his mouth off and doesn't have a filter on his mouth, and why is he so angry? Why is he so pissed off all the time? Well, number one, probably because I haven't had enough adult beverages yet that day, and number two, I'm just so sick and tired of being negative and angry all the time. I'm too old to be angry every minute of the day. I need to be happy, and that's why, depending upon what happens at the SFATA conference or what happens at the VTA conference, and if somebody wants me to, get involved with them as an organization, they're going to have to really convince me that they're going to do some really good work to bring this industry together. Because right now you've got, 5 different religions, basically. If you have a Buddhist, you have a Muslim, you have a Catholic, you have a Protestant, and you have a Jewish guy, all trying to get to the same end result. And that is to talk about your eternity, and everyone's going to have a different take on it, And right now we have the same thing. We have the same kind of different takes. Safana wants one thing, CASA wants another, and AVA wants another, VTA wants one. Forget about MBS. I don't even talk about that guy. But I just don't know where it's going to go from here. And are we spinning our wheels? Are we going to do any good work? Is anybody even listening? Is anybody really going to listen to what you and I have to say and what Steve can produce for us? We're seeing what's happening in Australia this last week. Forget that. I was on his show twice. South Australia is banning all vaping online sales. And now they've just announced that in the 12 months, the whole country there'll be no online sales, except for the people who are now stepping up to the trough and setting up their labs in Australia to sell nicotine in the form of e-liquid by getting a prescription from different doctors, like Dr. Attila Danko. He's involved in the pod system now. He can write scripts in Australia, to get people who want to vape. He has to get a script to those people. Then they have to go to a lab, and then and Molecule Labs is over there going to be filling the pods with blue liquid in my blue pods, and they're already setting up over there. I know it. It's a fact. And if people want to shoot me for, shooting the messenger here by saying, hey, you're letting cats out of the bag. No, it's done. We need to tell the truth. And if Imperial Tobacco wants to own Blue, and Blue can take a stand when Jewel says we're removing all of our flavors from all the convenience stores and all the gas stations, and Blue said, well, we're not going to do it. You have to consider, what are they doing it for? Why are they not doing it? Well, because they know that down the road, they're going to be a big part of this big transition from big tobacco taking over all of vaping that we're handing to them on a silver platter. Now, that's why people don't want me to do their shows at these programs anymore, like Safada. They're going to give me maybe 10 minutes to talk, during lunch while somebody's eating a sandwich, and I'm supposed to be able to convince people that this industry is worth saving.
Without
I told them today, I don't know what I'm saving. Who are we fighting for? And somebody I said that today in one of my postings. I said, every day it's harder and harder to know what I'm fighting for, Kevin. It really is. I don't know if I'm fighting for, Jewel. I'm fighting for a Vail Vapor. I'm fighting for Blue. I'm fighting for the smoker. Yep. Who am I fighting for? So they could all step up to the trough and get sold to the highest bidder. And that's exactly what's happening now. And everybody I've talked to, Kevin, and you probably will agree, if you talk to these people the way I can talk to them, and they know me and they feel like they can share with me, every one of them said, except for a big company that we're working with now. I won't mention their name yet, but every other company that I've talked to said, yeah, well, for the right amount of money, we'd sell the big tobacco.
Yeah, of course.
And I think, that's where we are. And that's the nature of the beast that we're dealing with. So what exactly are we fighting for? Are we fighting just so big tobacco can get more and more wealthy? Or are we fighting for tobacco harm reduction and go back to the philosophy that it doesn't matter who owns the vaping device or the e-liquid as long as it gets the smoker off of combustible tobacco? So we're always in this quagmire, Kevin.
Right.
Because if you say one thing, then it sounds like you're down on the other. And I'm not. And I am all for the tobacco companies, if they want to be clean, come clean and be honest and say, hey, we screwed up for 50 years. We killed a lot of people. Now we want to share the industry. And this was an industry that was made by smokers for the vapor.
And we're sorry. And they have to say they're sorry.
And they have to say they're sorry. And they're saying they're sorry now by saying, well, we are going to put money into the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World with $1 billion. That's got to mean something. Well, I don't know what it's going to mean. I don't know if it's going to mean that they're just, strategizing as to how they'll take over when they get all of the vaping e-liquid that they want, because they can make their own e-liquid tomorrow, and you could probably make your own e-liquid, Kevin. You probably can have all the flavors you want. You could probably learn how to make it unless you already do now.
No, I don't.
I don't. Well, there's a lot of people that do. There's a lot of people I see at these conventions that they go out and they get all these flavors that they want, and they get their nicotine. They make their own liquid. They make their own PG, their own VG. They make it 70, 30, 30, 50, 50, 80, 20. So but vaping will never go away.
I could do it. I could probably get anything I wanted with one tweet.
You probably could.
I mean, not for free, but I could go black market.
Well, you can probably do it a lot cheaper. My e-liquid, I don't even know if they're selling. I mean, I have my David G e-liquid line, but there's just such a saturation of e-liquid in the market. And that's why everybody's now, in a lot of cases, going to CBD. I mean, have you noticed that, Kevin?
Yes, sir. Very much so.
And the CBD that I'm a firm believer in, that's a whole other podcast in itself.
But is that an exit strategy for John at the vape shop?
No.
I mean,
no.
That's the problem. If you're going to stand in front of whichever organization you pick, and you're going to tell vape shop owners, what are you fighting for? You're fighting for the little old lady that just called you and said, well, I tried it, but it didn't work.
Right.
And the vape shops have to fight for everybody, including themselves, including an exit strategy at this point. 2020 is coming.
I think we've met so many wonderful people, Kevin. I think you and I especially, because I came in from a back door. I didn't come in the front door with any skin in the game. I came in off the coattails of Aaron Biebert.
Yeah.
I mean, people knew who I was before the documentary,
right.
A Billion Lives. I mean, they knew who I was because I was pretty vocal, and I was working with Mike Siegel, and for the rest of the story, and I was doing a lot of things with Bill Godshaw, and I had been on the circuit for quite a while, but I always kept stealth. I was very low key, because I didn't have money in the game. I didn't have skin in the game. I didn't have a product to sell other than my reputation as to how the tobacco companies are very capable of screwing your lives up, and taking away a lot of your good years that you have as you get older. So my skin in the game was my reputation, and my legacy was to pay it forward from all the mess up that I made when I was the Winston guy. Yeah. So I think I'm past that. I'm so far beyond that now. But I think what I was saying was that when you have these vaping people, and I see them every time I do a show. My last show is going to be in January. I'm not doing shows after January. I'm saying that loud and proud right now. January 25th and 26th, or whatever it is, in Oklahoma with the Vape Carnival. That's my last show. I'm not going to do this advocacy thing for 6 minutes on a stage with 27 people, screaming and waiting for free beer and, waiting for free shit that they can get at the next booth who has to shut their music down, and they have to stop the parade of people trying and buying their liquid. It's not for me. I'm not doing it. I mean, I made my name. People know who I am. Even Tony Abood now knows who I am after all these years. And for him to come up to me and say, we should have been using you a while ago. And I said, well, what can I tell you? So I do take it personal, but I'm also not going to take it so personal that I throw the baby out with the wash. I've got to continue to do what I do. A Billion Lives should have had better legs than it had. It should have been seen by so many more people globally. Aaron did a good job with it. It could have been different, had he had the support from the vaping community, other than, from Molecule Labs doing a red carpet party or an after party after a premiere, or Von Earl having the after party, and all these people that got into it because they wanted to make a name for themselves, which they did. Obviously, Molecule Labs did a really good job, in packaging for 18, 20, 22 different e-liquid makers, and now they're owned up to being owned by Imperial Tobacco. I don't know if they're owned by Imperial. I don't know what so I don't want to mislead anybody by saying it. I don't know if Imperial owns Molecule or they're just partners,
right.
But I do know that the Imperial Tobacco Fontham team has their quality control people at their labs where Molecule is manufacturing for Buy Blue.
Looks like blue packaging to me.
Well, it is, and I talked to a couple of people who admitted it, but they just haven't made the announcement yet. Like, so what are you waiting for? Just let people know. Plus, now they're going into Australia. And Australia had a rally yesterday because all the vapors were up in arms. I don't even know if Paul, he sent me a link that there was a live streaming going on, but I didn't get a chance to listen to it because it was a live stream yesterday, because they're like 12, 13 hours ahead of us. Yeah. And I was already in bed. And but there was a rally because they're trying to ban vaping over there unless you get a prescription from a doctor, and I mentioned Attilo Danko because he was in A Billion Lives. Yep. Attilo Danko and Colin Mendelsohn, who are very strong. Colin Mendelsohn, I guess, is like the FDA guy. I don't know if it's THR or something. I don't know what his category is, but he's just a very nice guy. He's a very smart man. But, ATHRO, which is the equivalent to our FDA, they're just throwing everybody under the bus over there. They're charging $30 for a pack of cigarettes. They got 26 to 30 million citizens in Australia, and 25% of them are smoking, and now they're going to have to pay $25, $30, $35 for a pack of cigarettes, but the product that can help them get off of it is going to be unavailable through online sales or in the stores unless you get a script from a doctor. So it's just corrupt. It's just as criminal, just like the World Health Organization, that should be disbanded and it should be destroyed and it should be shut down. And everybody that works for the World Health Organization should have a broom shoved up their ass and stuck in a corner somewhere.
Stuck in a room with glands.
Yes. And these people are just, these people are not civil people. These are just animals. They're evil, and I don't care for them at all, as you probably know. And I'm just so sick and tired of the games that are being played under the guise that they give a shit because it's all about the children and public health. So these podcasts that I do have got to take some sort of growth hormones or something, because we got to get out of this negative crap that we talk about week after week. And everybody does. I know Mike Peterson has a show, and I guess he's going to have Matt Salter on tonight. They're going to be talking the same thing we're talking about. And I'm sure Demetrius is going to have a show, and Bill Tarling's going to have a show, and Patrick Reif's going to have a show, and, Kevin Bowers has a show, and Jen Perry has a show, and Rob, everybody's got a show, but we're all saying the same thing. And I want my podcast and my program to be different, where we have some sort of answers to our concerns. And I don't know if I have the answers, and I know you don't, Kevin. Nope. I know that you have to follow the news as where it takes you.
I'm looking.
You report it the best you can, and all I can do is do the best I can with disseminating this information, making sure it's correct. But right now, everything that I've said tonight is correct. I'm not throwing stones. I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just saying this industry is so screwed up, and I'm just afraid that we're not going to have it in another year and a half. I think it's going to be gone. And Jen Perry will probably tell me that I'm wrong, because I love Jen Perry out of NVR. Yeah. And I love her, and I love Rob. But when I first went on Patrick's, and I'll say it because I don't care. I did Patrick Reif's show. You know Patrick by any chance?
Yes.
Okay. Very nice guy. I like him a lot. He asked me to do his show, and I called in, and so we were talking about what it was with the FDA and Gottlieb and, what they were going to do as far as the flavor bans, and, they were going to get Jewel to do this and that. So I said something about Gottlieb, and I said, I really don't trust him, and I'm not ready to give him a hug yet, or maybe Patrick said that first. I'm not sure, but I just said, well, I'm not ready to give this guy a hug. I don't trust him. And then next day I get a call from, no, it was Patrick called me. He said that somebody called him and said that it sounded like I was on morphine that night. and I probably was, but I was not sidling up to all the fanfare that some people were giving Scott Gottlieb for being this hero.
Right, right.
He's not a hero. He's not to me, and he's going to have to do a hell of a lot more to make me believe that he is really interested in what he says he wants to do for the American people, not just for the kids, because that's just a hoax.
It is a hoax.
It's a made-up epidemic, and you know that, Kevin. I'm
literally blogging about it this evening, literally.
It's made up. It's all phony. It's just like the national. Listen to this. I used to do the national youth surveys. Okay, when I was working for the Anti-Tobacco Movement, we'd go into schools and we would do these surveys, and we would give surveys out about smoking cigarettes. It had nothing to do with vaping, because vaping wasn't even out back then in the early 90s.
Are old.
I am. But we would do these surveys, and this is the honest to God's truth. We would pass out maybe 500, 600 surveys to the audience members, because that's how the people were getting their grants for the next round of funding. You have to do a request for proposal, an RFP, and with that you have to show data that says you are making a difference on tobacco education. Well, they would bring me in to see 3,000 kids that particular week in their community, in that county or whatever it was. So that would be the first flag that goes up, that we have met the amount of people that they needed to show that they reached out to 3,000 teens. Okay. Right. Well, with that would come a national tobacco youth survey. Well, the national youth surveys that we would give out, we would collect them all up. I certainly didn't collect them up, because I was usually, doing the show, and they were passing them out and passing them down the aisle in the auditoriums or the gymnasiums, and they were filling them out. And the responses to these questions that were being asked by American Cancer, American Lung, whoever was bringing me out, whether it might have been the county health department, it could have been the state health department, it could have been the Office of Education. But every survey, once in a while, you would see surveys that said, do you smoke? And the answer would be, no, yes, no. But do you know what the majority of them said?
No.
None of your fucking business. None of your effing business.
So you're lying?
Don't tell me.
Not you. They are lying.
They're lying. They're lying. They're saying, none of your business. Get out of my face. I'm not going to tell you. Bite me. All these people. That's what a national youth survey.
That's
shows.
Rebellion.
Because
at hand. Yeah.
Yeah. I would never tell somebody who I don't know the truth about my personal life.
Why would you?
No
Because
way.
your mom might find out.
That's right. So they would lie. And now all these national youth surveys. That's why you and I go down to head sometime when I say that I think that about 16 to 18 to 20% of teens smoke. It depends on where you do the survey. You do the survey in Provo, Utah with 300 Mormons. Right. There's a good chance that only 5% of them smoke. Okay? There's a real good. Go down to downtown Detroit, go into Chicago, go into Manhattan,
Boston, New York,
go into the ghettos. But the numbers are not truthful. It's all phony. And we give these people these free passes day after day in our health departments and in our offices of education that the National Youth Survey says, well, they have got to show that there's a decrease in consumption and I'm sure there is. Don't get me wrong. I know that smoking is a lot less today than it was 15, 20
Correct.
Years ago, but it's certainly not at 6%.
No, I don't think it is either.
No. Because they have to show, guys, that they have decreased the amount of consumption by teens, or they won't get the next round of master settlement money. That's a part of the deal. If they do not show a decrease, they will get a proportionate amount eliminated from their payout that particular year because they didn't show a significant decrease in consumption by teens. So that's what this whole thing is about.
But they're digging a hole, Dave. So what I'm doing is using their numbers against them momentarily on a tweet. However,
of course.
However,
absolutely.
For the past 5 years, I've heard Gateway, and I'll be damned if this thing's got rust all over it, because Truth Initiative itself, I'm actually looking at it, said in 2017, the adult rate went from 18.9 in 2011 to now 10.4. Now, these are young adults, 18 to 24-year-olds. So if there were a gateway to smoking 6 years ago, or 2011 to now, let's say 8-9 years, where are my smokers? Where is that gateway?
That's right. You're 100% right. You have to show those kind of differentials. There's no question about it. But that's why you're good at it, and I'm not. Nobody cares. Okay, that's going to be the name of my first movie. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Please bring bail money.
Yeah, or the other one's going to be The Young, the Poor, the Black, and the Stupid, and everybody's poo-pooing me on that because it's going to sound like I'm racist, and I get so pissed off at people when they tell me that. But I'm going to do what I got to do, and you guys are sticking with me, and it's taking us now. We're right on target. I wanted to do everything started by the first of the year. Steve's going to be available, hopefully, right? Things are changing a little bit for you, Steve.
Yes,
am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So, we're ready to go on this stuff, and we're going to have a meeting after the holidays, and we're going to come together probably in Missouri or Ohio, and we're going to put down and spend 2 days together and brainstorm how all this is going to come together. So, it's a done deal, and the people that I'm working with, you'll all get to meet. I'll see them on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in Texas. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that I've shared with you guys privately, and it's not that it's a secret. It's just that I don't mention anything until it's in the can. As far as paperwork and commitments and things like that. But it's taken a lot longer, and I can't count on anybody except you guys. I'm counting on a couple other people that you'll know and meet soon. I love my Pinnacle family with Kevin Lacey and Jessica and CBD line. I love my guys down at VapesGoneWild, but I'm not making anything on that. We're not selling a lot of product because we're not really pushing it. And not a lot of people are putting money into marketing because they don't know what the future holds for flavors in every state that we're talking about. So I'm just saying we're taking one day at a time. We're doing what we have to do. My David G e-liquid line is doing okay, but I'm not really pushing it because with that comes education and information, and we have to do these podcasts a little bit more regularly, but only when we have something to say that's going to be positive. We're not going to be bitching and complaining and ranting and raving week after week. I don't do that. I won't do it. We let other people do that. And I know Demetria's got a good handle on smoke-free radio. I know that NVR, Jen Perry, is going to play this out on her iTunes and on her network. I know Vape Radio. I don't know what's happening with Vape Radio. Rod and Pablo can play this anytime they want, on a stream if you guys don't care. Yep. The more people that get to hear it, the better off I am. But I did take 3 weeks off in my own sanity because I wanted to see where we were going to go. I was waiting for Jewel to sell. I wanted to be able to not come back and say, nah. I know that what I was saying was truthful, and it just probably happened a little. Yeah, I knew it was going to happen by the end of the year, but you wait and see what happens in the next 2 weeks, guys. In the next 2 weeks, you're going to see that Jewel is not going to be like a Vail Vapor, where a Vail owns 51% of the stock and Philip Morris owns 49 or 51, 50, whatever it is. You're going to see a major fluctuation with PMI and Altria when it comes to ownership of Jewel. And I believe that, Kevin Burns and Mark Bowen, I forget his name, Bowen. Adam Bowen and Kevin Burns and James Fonzie, I think. These are the three owners of Pax Labs and Jewel. They're going to walk away, pretty wealthy. And, okay, no problem. I can't indict them. This is a capitalistic world in which we live. A lot of people are probably jealous as hell, but I do know that's a strategy. It's a plan. And it was all behind closed doors. It's not like, remember when Von Earl threw me under the bus and said that, well, we just sold to Imperial Tobacco. We just decided this week.
Yep.
They've been talking about that merger for a good 6 months when they first brought me on as their face of Von Earl. And it's the same thing with the Jewel. That's why I knew about it a year ago. I knew they were talking. I knew there was discussion. They had to be. And you don't have that kind of a $16 billion industry on as far as its value and then expect to sell. And I was always underestimating. I was always going to say it was like 12 to $13 billion. And then I started listening to Bonnie Herzog at Wells Fargo. And then I started listening to the people at Philip Morris and Altria that I know who are saying, oh, no, it's going to be a little more like 20 billion. Oh, no, it's going to be like 24. It's going to be twice as much as what the New York what the value is. That's usually how it goes. And I certainly don't know how economy works that way with big mergers and takeovers and buyouts and stuff like that. But I just knew that it was going to happen. And I think everybody is now acting surprised, like, how could they do that? Well,
no, because Gottlieb and Matt Myers narrated the Golden Jewel.
Oh, sure. They did the nuptial. They did the
yeah.
nuptial. They were the matchmaker for this, and they know exactly what they're doing. If anybody doesn't think that they do, if everybody thinks it was just a fluke,
this is not a fluke.
That Altria comes in the 12th,
No
it's
way.
not a fluke. Matt Myers isn't a fluke. Cliff Douglas isn't a fluke.
The fluke is blown out of proportion because in 2015, in June of 2015, they came on the market. The rates allegedly, because we can round and round on that. The rates went to 11.3 for vaping for high school. Right. Then it went to 11.7. So it jumped barely, not even a point in 2017. Now it's 20%. And all that was free advertising and coordinated panic and all that.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody knows that you tell a kid not to do something, they're going to try to do it, especially if it's doing what they wanted to do. Now they're going to come. I guess it was like on Monday, Jewel said they were going to bring the levels of nicotine down, and it's like, why are you doing it now? Well, because they have to posture. They have to step up to the plate and say, well, we tried, and they have to save face, and they have to be able to say, well, this is what we did. We put $30 million into prevention. And then the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids said that Jewel is not allowed to go into schools to do prevention programs, and so I talked to Jewel 3 different times. I told Jewel that they asked me about my contract with Von Earl. I said, it's over. And it was mentioned that I should be able to get involved with doing something with their public image, because I had been in schools with the tobacco company. I could have done the same thing. And they had different ideas, and then I was asked to consider possibly doing prevention programs. And they said, well, no, we're going to do something else. And so I just kind of took it with a grain of salt and said, oh, they don't need me. That's fine. That's typical of the vaping industry. They don't need me. I'll just keep doing my own thing. So I do keep doing my own thing. And I believe that we are capable of doing greater things now that we have some of the attention that we deserve based on from big companies who are looking at what we do, what you do, Kevin, what I do, what Steve can do, production wise, as far as quality work, and then, hopefully by the time we get together in January, we're ready to do a FaceTime podcast, where we can all be on. Right now, the following doesn't matter anymore, because my following is not the vaping community. My following is going to have to be 40 million smokers out there who are looking for some way to find a way in the 2019 to get off of these gosh darn cigarettes, and I think that's where we're going to have to focus our attentions and let the vaping community do what they do. Let them fight and argue and be pissed off and angry and let us do what we do best, and that is educate, inform, not necessarily entertain, but give them information that makes it worthwhile listening for an hour, 45 minutes. So what else is happening in the world, Kevin, that I don't know about? We talked about Australia. We talked about Jewel. We talked about California. We talked about what's happening with Molecule Labs. We talked about, Stanton Glantz with his second sexual harassment suit, but still got $20 million on a grant. Good for him. Way to go, Stan.
He keeps that money rolling in with his donuts. Deanna Marshall's filed now her lawsuit. The Freedom of Information Act brought more than I could imagine. What she can share and what she can't, I'm sure, is between her and the attorney. But there's some interesting things that are going on with her suit. I can't see it right now, but they showed that they were going to decide, then they were not going to decide on the Board of Health meetings out in Gallatin, I think is where it is, Gallatin County.
Right.
So they wanted to discuss it with the Board of Health, and then they wanted to run it by, I think it was a cancer, but I don't want to lie, cancer, heart, lung, whatever, association, to make sure that their ordinance is going to be okay. So I don't understand how they can have a say in that, but that's what happened. So,
well, I know Greg Connelly's trying to get involved. He's trying to help him out. I think that there's something going on there where, Montana is a totally different breed from California. and it's a different kind of a culture out there. And I think Ron and Deanna have a handle on it the best they can. They're pretty thorough people. And I'm sure that they have their I's dotted and their T's crossed. So, I mean, they're doing the right thing with no money at all. I mean, they're just hard workers. They just believe in what they're doing.
I wouldn't normally say this, but they do have a fund the vape FOIA lawsuit. They do have a GoFundMe.
Okay, that just started recently, didn't it? Okay. Well, I mean, what is that? Can you put that on your vaping next time you? Okay. And I'd like to give them some kudos because they are doing some really good work, and I just love them. And Jen Perry, she's trying to do what she can do out there in Oregon, and working with Rob Williams. And there's a lot of really good people who are doing some good stuff, and we're never going to all agree.
No.
And I think that's where we're getting some anger issues going on right now, because I certainly don't agree with Demetrius on everything, or Bill Tarling. I don't agree with Fig Ramsey on everything. He doesn't agree with me. I'm sure I'm not going to agree with Tony Abood, and I'm not sure how it's going to happen if Jewel is on their board.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And now Jewel is partly owned by Altria. That's going to be a definitive conflict of interest that's going to upset a lot of people. So, and I know Tony knows about this, obviously. But I'll know more when I get back from Austin next week. But then again, I'm not going there to try to gather information. I'm going there to try to elicit information on how we can best fight the demons. And the demons, we all know who they are, and I don't care how much suspicion you have for me, as far as me being a shill for Big Tobacco, if somebody does. People still do.
Oh, I believe
I swear to God. People still... They still think I'm getting paid by Big Tobacco to cause all this angst and this chaos. And,
you got residuals from Winston?
Yeah, like I get residuals from Winston. Yeah, 40 freaking years ago. Yeah. And then you get people calling me a liar, like some of our friends on the West Coast, calling me a liar like I was never the Winston guy. And like I didn't do what I said I did. So I'm above that. I'm over it. I take the high road whenever I can. And I'm not trying to badmouth anybody, and I want to make that perfectly clear. Molecule can do whatever they want. Imperial Tobacco, My Blue can do whatever they want. Just don't do what Von Earl did to me and throw me under the bus without giving me some sort of a heads up. And right now, Jewel is giving everybody a heads up. Now, you haven't heard anything from Jewel, and you have to figure out who's giving this information out. Is Altria just setting the stage here and putting the pressure on Jewel to sell because they put the word out?
I think you should call Matt Myers and see. That's my opinion.
Well, Matt Myers would be the one that would know, I'm sure, because he's the one that did. He did the marriage vows, and then American Cancer brought the rings, for these nuptials, and the matchmakers that we have here now that have put these two wonderful people together.
Gottlieb's the ring bearer.
Oh, well, he's certainly involved too. You can't tell me for 1 second that he didn't know that all this was happening. This has been discussed. And I've been in these meetings 20 years ago when I was a young man. I was in the meetings with Matt Myers, and I was in the meetings with Cliff Douglas. And I sat there at these, public health discussions as to how we're going to get people to quit smoking, even if we have to lie. I've been saying this and I'm saying it. So the documentary of A Billion Lives, you only saw 30 minutes of me in A Billion Lives. I spoke to Aaron Bieber for about 7 hours, so there's a hell of a lot more information that needs to come out. So we'll do it ourselves, and I love Aaron, and I think Aaron did a good job, and Aaron's working hard now with the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World and doing other things, and I like Charlie Gardner, and I love Derek Yap. So, and no indictment against anybody. It's just that we need to come together as a team, as a group, and I think the only way to do that is if I do something magnanimous, and that is to put my words into a documentary with the help of you guys, and my other company that I'm working with to sponsor this and, get it in the can. Then we'll be able to make some grand announcements that will be very beneficial, not necessarily for the vaping industry, but good for the remaining smokers, that they can feel comfortable knowing that, whether they have to get their vaping devices from Big Tobacco, or they have to get it from Blue, or they have to get it from Molecule, or they have to get it from Jewel.
Radio Shacks.
The way it's
far and few between now.
Yeah. So that's right. So I just think that whatever, I'm not going to sit here and say that I cannot, if big tobacco sells it, I don't want anything. I'm not going to say that. I just want people to quit. I want people to have tobacco harm reduction. I don't want people, breathing in chemicals and gases and poisons and irritants and vapors and pesticides at a rate of 4,762, of which 70 cause cancer. So that's all I can say. That's the only mantra I have. And the only way to do that, guys, is to do something that people want to listen to. I certainly don't watch news anymore. I mean, I have to. I'm forced to. When I go online, you have to scroll down and see what's going on. I don't worry about Donald Trump anymore, and I don't worry about Mueller, and I don't worry about Pence, and I can't worry about who's crossing the border in Mexico and who's pepper spraying. Did pepper spray come from Obama, or did tear gas come from Trump? Did they do it 12 years ago? I mean, I'm over it. I can't keep up with it anymore. I have to do what I can do, and I can only worry about a problem that you and I and Steve can have a solution for, and that is coming together with a good quality piece of information in the form of a mini documentary or a mini series to get information out that people may want to listen to it. If it affects them, it's like a bowl of spaghetti. You throw it at them. What sticks to them, they need it. What falls to the floor, you step over it. So that's what my goal is, guys. So I think we're about done for the night, unless you have something else you need to share, Kevin.
I'm good for now. We'll be another hour.
Okay, well, you need to get this up and running soon and get this sent down to our friends at Vape Radio and Jen Perry and get it loaded, Steve. And thanks for being with me tonight, and thanks for your patience. And we'll be seeing you all hopefully in the next couple of weeks, or at least 10 days. And happy holidays to everybody if we don't talk to you personally. But I'll get back from Austin, Texas next week, and hopefully have another program bringing you up to date as to what's happening within our industry, as seen by my eyes and heard by my ears and spoken with my lips. So good night, folks. Have a great day, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.